So Wiz Khalifa,
Hmm.
that was shot in two completely separate locations. In
Благослови моих братьев, благослови наши руки. Мы в поисках больших денег, мы в деле круглые сутки. Благослови
Pimped Out
моих
Radio Show, man. They everywhere.
братьев, благослови моих братьев.
All right, y'all. We're tuned in for another episode of Pimped Out Radio Show. I am your host, Andreas, and I have online with me today Mr. Asher Laub, who is a classical violin trained person, has done a lot of terrific things. I was just sitting there looking at some of your negotiation with contracts and stuff with Mountain Dew and Viacom and Citigroup, PBS. That's a lot of work. I've been playing since the tender age of 2. So Ashley, let's get into that real quick. Did you just happen to pick up the violin, or did someone put it in your hand?
I don't really remember. I wish I had a videotape. I just remember my mind's eye, the experience.
Uh-huh.
I remember much of my childhood, or at least I've convinced myself that I
Hmm.
remember the details pretty accurately. But that part I don't. I do remember practicing, and I remember the etudes and the Suzuki method and the scales,
Hmm.
and looking up to my brother and my two brothers. They were both, classical violinists, the oldest one, and then oboist. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, I fond memories, but
Hmm.
not something
Yeah.
I could imagine would have loved.
So I was going through and listening to a lot of different interviews you have done, and also watching your YouTube channel, which your videos are fantastic, by the way. I love
Oh,
those.
that's really nice.
Um, yeah, especially like there's one. Well, I like the one where you was going through all the different rooms, and it changed room, and then also the one where you was playing the violin and it changed scenery, locations, but you were still playing the song. I think it was like a Wiz Khalifa one or Doja Cat or something like that. It was one of those.
Oh, where?
So I thought
Sorry.
that was. Hmm.
Oh, yeah. So that actually, so Wiz Khalifa,
Hmm.
that was shot in two completely separate locations
Hmm.
in Maui,
Hmm.
and months later in on a beach in New York.
Yeah, so I love how it was put together like that. But I was listening to your story, and like I'll go ahead and anything that you want to add to it, that's cool. But for like and I know this is paraphrasing and putting it in like a nutshell, but you had come down with some type of illness where it took away your ability to play, and I believe you was in a wheelchair during that time. And you can also say what that illness is, just for clarification.
Yeah, adrenal insufficiency. I was diagnosed with adrenal insufficiency. To where I wasn't producing enough cortisol, and something I wouldn't wish upon anybody.
Yeah, it sounds horrendous. During that time, because looking at your 15 plus career of being a full-time musician, performer, and producer, right? And all these fantastic things that you have done. But during that time of being like, sat down because of the illness, how did you deal with that and that yearning that I imagine you would have? Because to me, I think you're a creator. So you always want to create and share your craft with the world. So how did you like get over that mental hump of you didn't know whether or not you was going to be able to make a recovery, I
Yeah.
imagine.
No, I didn't. But I was confident that I guess I can't say I was confident in anything because I just didn't know. But nobody, I could tell you, everybody around me thought it was the end. And
Hmm.
that this is going to be my life, and I just refused to accept the diagnoses and the just the conventional wisdom at the time and even today, and recommendations. And if I
Hmm.
had, I would have just sort of accepted things as they are, and then I just would have just continued to just be a vegetable, I guess. Having gotten a BSN, a nursing degree from NYU,
Mm-hmm.
one of my biggest pet peeves, and I'm not speaking as a musician, I'm speaking as somebody with a degree, is seeing a patient in a position where they they may or may not have the potential to reemerge or to fix the problem, or at least to address the problem, but because they're given like this sentence of like permanence, and there's no way of getting out of this, and there's just no way to correct it. Maybe you could use some crutches. I get really, really angry, and because this is sort of the conventional way of thinking in this country, and I don't want to divert the conversation much to medicine, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
just sort of speaking for my soul here and for my experience. Um, but having shared that, I just want to say that I I had a very different mindset. I had the mindset of, okay, I'm being told I can't fix it, but I need to
Mm-hmm.
fix it because I have a family depending on me, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm what's the worst that can happen? I'm just gonna try all sorts of things and I'm just gonna try to get better. And I did. You can't get out of adrenal insufficiency with a mindset. Yoga helps if once you're strong enough, but it
Mm-hmm.
really just boils down to a hormone deficiency. Takes a whole lot more than that. But a
Mm-hmm.
mindset of I'm gonna get better is definitely prerequisite to learning what you need to learn, or testing testing the waters, trying to figure out what it is that's missing to
Mm-hmm.
address the underlying illness. So I don't know if that made sense to you.
No, no, it definitely does. It starts with the mind, and I think one of the things that you said, there's a will, there's a way, and I really resonate with that. Because I felt that with all the different things I've gone through with life and different trials and errors, and being, how life, will push you down, and it just makes you more resilient and want to do more. So, with that being said, I understand, like, the music industry is, I've been helping independent artists like get paid and things like that for since 2005 now. So that's like one of my things that led to actually doing a podcast and radio show and all that. How was that transition for you? As far as like, you're a violinist, you're an instrumentalist, you're a producer, just jumping out into that field and people, realizing you have this particular talent, but then also you being compensated at the value of what you are.
Um, well, I just want to start by saying that if you value yourself at a certain level, that sort of resonates with and it influences your negotiating skills. If you devalue yourself, you don't say, I can't tell you how many artists I've worked with that I've booked
Mm-hmm.
through, we work with Fiddler's Dream Productions entertainment booking agency. And I've interfaced with a number of other artists who they value themselves much lower than they're worth. And I pay them
Mm-hmm.
more. I offer them more because I don't believe in underpaying. I don't believe in hiring somebody for less than a certain threshold.
Yeah.
So I believe in overpaying, and by extension, I believe in valuing myself at a certain level,
Mm-hmm.
because I put in the work, I put in the effort, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like any other job. So I'm not exactly addressing your question, so my apologies.
Well, no, you are touching on that. So, like, tell us what were some of the growing pains and struggles that came along with, running the business as an independent musician.
There have been endless struggles and and growing pains, and they continue today. Because, but I can't say that they're just specific to independent musicians. We just don't hear
Mm-hmm.
about the growing pains and struggles that major label artists deal with. They probably deal with
Mm-hmm.
more than we do. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I could tell you just as a start, wearing multiple hats,
Mm-hmm.
managing your fan base, the finances, crunching data, figuring out what works, what doesn't work, who's ripping you off and who isn't. There are
Uh-huh.
so many people ripping you off. They want
Yeah.
to cut deals with you. It looks like it's a good deal. It looks like you're being booked in a way that like they're they're putting forth the effort, but they're just riding off of your shoulders. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's it's been a struggle finding my own voice and my own kind of taking my own path to success to success. But
Mm-hmm.
I would say it's been well worth the journey.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely understand that. So what are like some of your most successful singles or most singles that are notable to you? Because everybody's definition of success is a little different.
Yeah, well, the successful singles, I guess, are the ones that the fans are streaming on repeat. So like Neon Dreams and Miserlou. Well, Miserlou is
Hmm.
something I'm really proud of in terms of the collaboration with Jenny Luke and Johannes Grutzacker out in LA. Amazing talents, international touring artists,
Hmm.
well respected in the field, and song I produced and then they contribute to, and it's like an equal part ownership. Miserlou is something I'm most proud of for that
Hmm.
reason. Neon Dreams was like the thing that launched my career, and very different from Miserlou. Miserlou is like a rock EDM song, and Neon
Hmm.
Dreams is like a hyped up, high energy. Sorry, yeah,
Hmm.
electro house, progressive house, classical piece. So
Hmm.
kind of genre bending song.
Oh, I like the fact that you dance with your violin, and I also like all the different. I imagine you have a lot of different violins.
I have a number, yeah. The ones that look funkier and cooler tend to sound worse.
For
uh,
real.
yeah, people don't notice this stuff. The stuff that I notice because I'm a producer and I'm like,
Yeah.
this is what I spend
Uh-huh.
all my time working in the studio and pumping out singles and you know.
Hmm.
But so I'm a little neurotic when it comes to the tone. If something's a little off, doesn't bother most people. But um,
Hmm.
yeah, having acoustic classical, and electric. I used to have a Zeta, got rid of that because it was just so heavy. I mean, it's just like
Hmm.
this. You can see
Hmm.
some old videos of me running around with that. Actually, that's what I played at Madison Square Garden. Um, yeah, I'm happy with the instrument that I have today. It's honestly, I found that it's the pedals that matter the most. I'm not
Hmm.
gonna I'm not gonna pick up my pedal off the
Yeah,
ground.
yeah, no.
Mess up the
Yeah, I
whole
get
interview.
it.
I'm gonna trip over some cables. There's so many cables around here, by the way.
Yeah.
Welcome
Oh,
to my
yeah, I can
studio.
imagine. So,
Um,
you like to perform, right? And you're doing something different that most people wouldn't, think the violinist. And then, also people like to put them in a box of like classical and stuff, but you like more upbeat tempo type of music genres and things of that nature. When you're performing and you got a crowd in front of you, are you feeding off of the interactions with the crowd, or are you just in your own world of like, I'm gonna give this performance regardless of how they, view me?
that's a really good question. Because it's the answer to your question is obviously wildly different depending on the performer. And for me, it really
Hmm.
depends on the venue, the location, the type of event. But for the most part, I do feed off the crowd in a pretty deep way. And I kind of wish I didn't. I kind of wish I just didn't care. But
Hmm.
I cared. I unfortunately I do care. And when I
Hmm.
see people are really into the music, I really get into it. When I see people are networking and they don't care, they're just
Hmm.
I don't care. Honestly, I
Yeah.
just I really respond, and I
Hmm.
wouldn't recommend that type of mentality. I think you should just put your love into
Hmm.
and your effort as much as possible into whatever you're doing, regardless of the situation. But
Hmm.
I think it's kind of natural for a performer to react to their audience.
Yeah, and I think the like you said, going to both ways depending on the environment. I'm like you're a creator at the end of the day, so you want
I'm
what
playing for
you
myself.
exactly, but then you also want that well received and people to understand, the work that went into it. Um,
Yeah,
so let's talk about that a little bit. Like, so a typical song that you compose and you create. Like I know it fluctuates, but what would be like an estimated time that you think it would take for you to create it and record it to the point to where you're satisfied with it?
a piece. It varies widely. Some songs I spent half a year on. Like,
Hmm.
was it a brighter day ahead? I'm trying to remember which song. And then other songs I've been pumping out pretty quickly, like these classical pieces, believe it or not.
Hmm.
Repentance, Tribute to Israel. It's actually something I just released recently, and that was a whole symphony. And
Hmm.
I did that because I just did a number of like fundraising events, and sadly, because of what we're hearing on the news, it's actually more relevant than ever.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, uh, yeah, the Neon Dreams was relatively quick because that kind of wrote itself, and I was inspired by my own story of
Hmm.
emerging from a wheelchair, which I never
Hmm.
thought would ever happen.
Hmm.
So yeah, it varies widely. Free Fall was a hip hop song I
Hmm.
wrote. I sorry, I didn't write that one. Free Fall, I'm actually gonna hold this up. I'm just talking about this. If you guys check out my Spotify, it is a it was a collaboration with Insane Beats. So he produced the hip hop piece, and I lay down the violin to that. So
Hmm.
that was quick as hell.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Which
overnight.
yeah, a lot of those hip hop songs, tend to be, because they're not as complex as, other styles of music. When it comes to, I'd imagine, are you your own manager when you come to representation and your negotiation and stuff?
Uh, for the most part these days, I have been solicited quite a few times. I haven't. I guess I got cold feet each time.
Hmm.
In retrospect, I kind of think that I probably should have taken the deals. I think they might have led me down a slightly different path. So
Hmm.
I do think, but at the time I just didn't know. So that may change. I could see other management coming my way in the near future, and I might consider a different path and work with them.
So how
I
was it
have
like?
independent booking agents.
Hmm.
So independent booking agent.
Okay.
So yeah, just to elaborate on what you were asking. So I have booking agents that you know per DM, like per case, per gig, they'll
Hmm.
work with me. And I work with some booking agents very frequently during the year. So in
Hmm.
terms of that, I wouldn't call them my manager because they're not
Yeah.
exclusive. Nobody has to go through them. They have to go through me.
Hmm.
Still filling it out, but this has been going on for 20 years now. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I definitely get that. Especially when, people think about all the horror stories and stuff like that. So when it comes
That's
to like, uh conglomerates like Google and big old, companies, Viacom, Nickelodeon, stuff like that. Um, how is their approach, or are there any tips and advice that you can give, aspiring independent musicians or musicians at all, or even artists and creators when they go into those situations? Are there things they need to look for? Is there a certain way that need to present themselves? Do they need to be like stern in what they want, or
Yeah, so first of all, it helps to be really good at what you do, be really confident in what you do, and really organized. In terms of just your contacts, every contact is really very important. So if you go to a networking event or a private event, corporate, whatever it is, uh, you want to remember and have those contacts, those cards, save them somewhere digitally, maybe on Dropbox. That's something I've gone back to old relationships frequently, and I've had people reach out to me from like a couple years ago that have
Mhm,
been maybe following me for a while. So every relationship is valuable, and you don't want to you want to be careful about uh, taking them all very seriously. So
mhm,
that's something I would emphasize. And really, I've also had people reach out to me out of the blue because they saw something that I was doing that was cool. Maybe a music video that I released, something really unique that I did in terms of a performance, or like that commercial that you mentioned that was Lucida Surfaces, a Home Depot company that
mhm,
I did. They brought me out to like Sony Studios in Brooklyn. That's like did this like $70,000 production. So some people like see something like that and they want to do something similar for their company, or
mhm,
one opportunity leads to another. One of my regrets, I have to say, is that I've been a little stiff in terms of opportunities that did not pay or pay so well.
mhm,
I did it occasionally, like back when I was in college and worked my way through college. If you look at some advice from not Wiz Khalifa, the DJ Khaled, he
Hmm.
talks about how he used to volunteer all the time. Like he did things for other artists
Hmm.
frequently. And he attributes a lot of his success to that, which is interesting because I wouldn't have thought that intuitively. Uh, so so I just want to kind of mention that might give people aspiring artists opportunities that they may otherwise never
Hmm.
consider if they're not being
Hmm.
if they're not reaching audiences regularly on social media, for instance, or
Yeah.
through news, whatever.
So you have a family and you're on the road and stuff like that, and you're a music performer and producer. How do you balance all that? And then what is life on the road for you? What is that like?
It's hard. It's very hard. It's probably harder for my family than it is for me because they're always calling me, email, like doing video chats and telling me how much they want me to be home, and it's that probably makes it hardest for me because I feel guilty about sort
Hmm.
of doing my job.
Hmm.
I don't think it's good for anybody. And that's if you go to Hollywood, you look at all these celebrities, there's endless. They're just divorce rates higher, I guess, than the typical. Probably for that reason, because people are always on the road. So I've had to compromise my career aspirations, my career opportunities on quite a few cases. I mean, just an
Hmm.
example, Kygo, Kygo's manager called me to do like a festival. I turned it
Hmm.
down for family. Um, what one crazy cool opportunity versus my family, I'd choose my family without a question. But it's just one of many examples where it's like, okay, you have to weigh what are your values, what do you really want,
Hmm.
and I choose my family over being more successful.
Hmm.
But I'm hoping to be able to achieve all my dreams. And for
Hmm.
aspiring artists, it's important to again know yourself and what's going to make you happy. You don't want to make a mistake. You could do an audition for The Voice or something, or for America's Got Talent, and they could give you an opportunity, and then if you have a family or if you have an important relationship or another commitment, you can give that up and then flop on
Hmm.
the talent show, whatever it is. So you know, I I think a lot of people are married to their work, um,
Hmm.
and it's good to work and to be successful, but I think that, and it's good to have a good work ethic. And for me, I'm actually a workaholic,
Hmm.
but it's also important to know your values, and to have long-term vision, see where you want to be when you're 60, 70, 80.
Yeah. Um, so when it comes to producing, do you just produce like, your stuff, instrumental tracks, or you actually producing artists? Like where's your realm of producing?
I'm doing both. I'm producing music for sync licensing, for
Okay.
film. I'm producing music for myself, to engage my fans. I am producing music for other artists to build relationships and to inspire myself. And actually, I've been sitting on a couple of cool collabs, um, for no good reason. I guess because I've just been dealing with being really tired in the morning these days,
Uh-huh.
late nights. Um, so yeah, thanks for the reminder, by the way. I know what to do after
Yeah.
this interview. I got
Hey,
a couple hours in.
yeah, I talk to artists all the time. It's amazing. I was talking to a few artists, was it last week, and they have all these unreleased songs. And I'm like, so what are you gonna do with this? I'm like, I know you live in the studio, you stay in the studio, but at some point, the whole point is to share it with the world and see what happens. So
Yeah.
when you do releases, like, do you follow the same format, or do you like to switch it up and try new things?
I switch it up more than I maintain the same format. Excuse me.
Okay.
The mainstay used to be progressive house. I was in love with that. And I realized that my fan base didn't really give a shit.
Hmm.
Part of my language. They literally did not care, um, in terms of my lives. Like I gauge that from my lives and from the mailing list, the DMs. And I found that
Hmm.
way more people in the DMs, the mailing list, the lives were like on Facebook, for instance, were looking for more low key, relaxing music, especially around the COVID time period of time.
Hmm.
And it was just it's a constant tension because my intuition is to do like the high energy stuff, and that works for
Hmm.
corporate events and concerts. You do have to listen to an extent to your fan base, and
Yeah, yeah.
I'm hoping I'll be able to expand my fan base to those who also enjoy what I'm doing, what I prefer to do a little more. But at the moment,
Hmm.
that's why I'm pumping out like concertos and symphonies and stuff like that.
Hmm. So what's been like the most memorable performances that you've had thus far?
I can't say it's been one. It's I've done quite a few that have been memorable. PBS, um, a couple of times, Carnegie Hall. I mean, just playing iconic venues has just been memorable. Playing and performing in Europe.
Hmm.
Um, I performed in the Middle East as well. I mean, it's just I every performance is unique. I'm gonna say Master Theater was a hell of a time in terms of the energy. That would be an example where there's 3,000 people that are like screaming, like that are enjoying a song like Neon Dreams, which has no words,
Hmm.
there's no lyrics. Uh,
Hmm.
it's an instrumental piece, but people are just clapping and
Hmm.
enjoying the song. Um, and what's exciting mostly about that for me is that you
Hmm.
don't you don't see too many artists playing an instrument with a fan base that's really enjoying it to that level. So I felt like that was iconic for me. That was a milestone for
Hmm.
me as an artist.
So have you had the opportunity where new creators have like, used your music to make content with it? Like has anyone used your stuff like for video skits or anything funny or whatever the content creation?
Yeah, I've had a few million streams worth of that, worth of artists using my music to just do stuff on socials. So I'm deeply flattered. I'm grateful for that. Some pretty big artists and creators have used it as well. Um, yeah, I guess that's all I can say. It's one of the biggest compliments in the world to have your music used in a commercial or by a creator. It's just
Hmm.
it means a lot. So it shows that they care. They like the music enough to do something with it.
Yeah, I definitely love that. And I love that feeling that you say that, someone else used your stuff and they create something with it. Have you gotten to the point to where people have came to you and be like, hey, I listened to you or I follow your path and you inspired me to pick up an instrument or to pursue my dreams as well?
Yeah, I've had a number of artists, not artists, but aspiring artists, a number of people who've reached out and um, have have said such things. I need to. I've been given opportunities to mentor and to teach, and that's something I have not really focused on or spent much
Hmm.
time. It's something I'd like to do, but I don't want it to replace my many other hats that I'm wearing, such as production,
Hmm.
live performance, connecting with fans. So, but I might set up like a mentorship program soon to hopefully inspire more people to play the violin and to play their instruments. I think it's important.
What
Important for mental health. Yeah. Mhm.
at this point in time in your career, with the successes that you had, like what keeps you motivated now? What inspires you?
Nothing. I think I'm just gonna give up. I quit. I'm done.
Let's just cancel it. Cancel the tour.
Yeah, yeah. What motivates me? I mean, I'm motivated by continuing to connect with fans. I'm pretty self-motivated to keep producing music, and I just want to keep doing what I'm doing, and I want to do more of it, and I want to keep connecting with other artists and collaborating with them. I don't need motivation for that. Uh,
Hmm.
Again, the song like Miserlou or that song I did with Porter Singer uh recently, Gratitude is these are songs that are deeply meaningful to me, and it's deeply meaningful to connect with other artists, and it just gives me a sense of satisfaction and of like there's like I'm doing something for other people and that I'm helping to improve the status of the
Hmm.
world in my little niche, my little corner.
Hmm.
And I mean, I don't need much motivation to produce music for film. I just want to.
Yeah.
There's music that I want to hear. I want to hear on film, and I don't hear it. So
Yeah.
that's motivation alone.
I definitely get that. How involved are you in the production process of the videos that you put out? Like, do you come up with the
Um,
treatments and the rollout for it and all that?
so in a case like in a big production like Lucida Services, for instance, where that was featuring my single, um,
Hmm.
I was there was a whole team that was kind of running the show, but they involved me as part of like a collaboration. So
Hmm.
I found that to be that was one of those rare instances where I was less involved, where I was more like kind of the performer, but
Hmm.
but uh probably more than I'd like. I'm involved a little bit more than I think is healthy. Like you don't want to be the cameraman, but I tend to micromanage a lot of things. And but I'll tell you why. Because I have worked with a number of videographers and producers that kind of they overlooked something really important.
Hmm.
So as a result, it's like if you're spending money and you're doing this for the fans and it's something you got to live with for many years, I'd rather
Hmm.
be a little bit of an ass,
Yeah.
um, like a respectful ass, but
Yeah.
nonetheless, like that, then just kind of lets things fly and then have some glitch on the screen that's never going to go away. So,
Yeah, exactly. Now I definitely get that, because you again, it's something you created and then like you said, you know how it's going to resonate and you have a certain vision for it. And sometimes videographers and producers, they'll just go through the motions of stuff and not really like be as excited about the project like you are. So I definitely understand that. Wow. So do you set goals anymore or do you just like to let stuff happen organically?
um, I have to set goals. If I don't, things just sort of fall to the wayside and you get sleepy and things don't happen and people
Hmm.
disappear, opportunities disappear. Um, Things tend to fall into your lap as you plan. That's
Hmm.
what I've noticed from like over a decade of planning. So yeah, you really have to be self-motivated in this field. If you're not, then you need management to run your life. Maybe a different job would be a
Hmm.
better situation for me. I'm very self-motivated. Um, I just leave it at that.
Okay. So, for aspiring musicians and producers and instrumentalists, anyone, yeah, actually creatives who want to go out there and make this a career for themselves, what would be like the top three things, pieces of advice that you would give to them?
Well, building connections with other established artists and producers is very important. I would say it's not necessarily a prerequisite, but it's very important. It's sort of part and parcel to success. Never like if you see an unturned stone, turn it. Just look for opportunities because there are many unturned stones. There are many opportunities that that with a good amount of effort you can kind of discover uh,
Hmm.
just new amazing options for yourself as an artist. I'd say that there are many uh, failures that I have faced as an artist and actually continue to face that people don't
Hmm.
necessarily notice. I mean, I fail all the time. I lose gigs. I lose clients. People go the other way. People like I just had a cancellation this week, just yesterday. Uh,
Hmm.
I had a client who was actually Israeli,
Hmm.
and they were being whatever they were being they wanted to book me. They were into my music, blah blah blah, and because of the war, they had to go back and fight in the
Hmm.
army. So
Yeah, things
these things don't
happen.
happen every day, but
Hmm.
it so uh but failures happen all the time. I'll be rejected by a playlist or a curator or a blog or a magazine or a blog. Failures happens all the time, and that's a really part and parcel to growth. So I
Hmm.
would say that living with those failures and being comfortable with them and expecting them is
Hmm.
a prerequisite to achieving your dreams. So
Hmm.
anybody who's big and who's achieved anything, they have failed time and time again. So use that
Hmm.
as fuel to
Hmm.
achieve your dreams.
What's
learn
up?
from your mistakes and from your errors and from your failures.
No, definitely, I love that. Well, Asher, I appreciate you know, taking the time out your busy schedule to come and do the interview. Is there anything that, you know, I left on the table that I didn't get to talk about that you
Well,
want
there's
to
all
talk
sorts of
about?
things. Well, I'm sure there's all sorts of things we could talk about, but we definitely cover the gamut. And I appreciate your time. It's really been really nice sharing my story with you and your listeners.
I appreciate it. So everybody, y'all make sure y'all go and y'all follow Asher, and I'll make sure I have all the social media stuff in the video for y'all. But thank you, Asher. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're very welcome, and I hope to connect with everybody on social media.